Good evening. I now call the June 28th meeting of the Wallingford-Swarthmore School Board to order. In opening, as you're willing and able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would like to start by asking Ms. Fagora to take the roll call.
Mr. Ballas.
Here.
Mino.
Here.
Dr. Huff.
Here.
Mr. Cudis.
Here.
Mrs. Lentz.
Here.
Mr. Sullivan.
Here.
Mrs. Walkman.
Here.
Ms. Wachowski-Smith.
Here.
Dr. Grandy.
Here.
Mr. Berman.
Here.
Dr. Grandy, you have 9 voting members present.
All right, thank you, Ms. Fagora. So I'll start with board announcements. I do want to mention the board met in executive session prior to this meeting to discuss personnel and safety. And also mention that Dr. Palmer is not able to join us this evening due to travel. Before I move on to our first focus topic, I do want to mention, of course, that Wednesday is the last day for Dr. Palmer as superintendent before she retires, and we welcome Dr. Marseille on Thursday. And, Mr. Abbott, I think, mentioned a few words about Dr. Palmer at our last meeting, but I just wanted to say a few additional words because I've worked very closely with Dr. Palmer over the past 3.5 years, and certainly over the last year to year and a half, we've worked together very closely. And I can certainly say the job of a superintendent is a very hard one. And certainly over the past year, it's been nothing short of extraordinary challenge for all superintendents. And Dr. Palmer is certainly among those that have worked day and night throughout the pandemic. Mr. Abbott did mention at the last meeting that if at any point you drove past the school and you saw a car sitting in the parking lot late at night, it was Dr. Palmer's, and I can say that is definitely true. Having spoken to her on the phone many times late in the evening over many issues. Her dedication to the district and the students in our district has really been extraordinary. And again, I've worked so closely with her over the past year and a half and just see all that she has given to our district. She's led very important initiatives during her 5 years of leadership and will certainly be missed. So Dr. Palmer, we are all eternally grateful for all you've done for the district. And Dr. Marseille, we're excited to welcome you on Thursday and look forward to your leadership of Wallingford-Swarthmore School District. So that takes us to our focus topics. We have one on the agenda this evening, and that is a wellness committee report. And so I will ask Ms. Fagora to lead that discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Grandy. While I'm waiting for the presentation to show up, each year before the end of the school year on June 30th, the district, all districts are required to do a student wellness and nutrition committee update. I changed, I want to say the title of the committee only because Dr. McCullough she does a wellness update also, and she focuses on specifically mental health and social emotional learning. So this really is part of nutrition as well as wellness. So we've made it a little bit longer, the Student Wellness and Nutrition Committee. Okay, go ahead. Thank you, AJ. So I'm first going to start with the student wellness policy federal regulations. It's really why we're here. Every local educational agency needs to have a school wellness policy for any schools participating in the school lunch program or the school breakfast program. Federal regulations require schools receiving these federal funds to have a student wellness policy. And the plan includes methods to promote student wellness, to prevent and reduce childhood obesity, and provide assurance that school meals and other food are consistent with federal standards. This student wellness policy must contain goals for nutrition promotion, education, physical activity, and other school-based activities that promote student wellness. There needs to be standards for all foods that are sold and not sold to students during the school day. So there's standards of what we can and can't do for students based upon nutritional guidelines from the state. The student wellness policy also must contain implementation of the compliance on how we're doing this, a description on how to participate in the wellness policy across the district and the stakeholders that are involved, and also a description for reporting our wellness policy content, our record keeping, and our implementation. So this record keeping includes our triennial assessments, our meeting notes, and anything that has to do with the food, the policies that we have as part of the district on how we are giving out rewards to students, information that for anything that's sold or not sold in the district. There's policies and procedures and forms that teachers and staff need to fill out if they are doing fundraisers, and this all comes through this policy, and it's part of the record keeping. Our student wellness policy is number 246. Our policy includes, and I really condensed this, it's a comprehensive nutrition program that's aligned with federal and state requirements where students are receiving consistent nutritional educational messages across the district, that they have access to a reasonable cost to foods and beverages, that there are physical education opportunities and any appropriate physical activities for students to do during the school day. Also, an annual stakeholder report is to be shared regarding student wellness to inform the public on the policy and changes and initiatives. And the policy, the contact information, and general information are found on the district website. This is going to be updated after this meeting today, but that information is for anyone who wants to get involved, has an opportunity to do so. It could be community members, it could be family, could be students. So that's all on the website, and it's under, right in the beginning, general information. So every district needs to evaluate our board policies and complete a wellness assessment every 3 years. Because of COVID, there was a waiver. It gave us a chance to delay the deadline of our triennial assessment, and that was given to us until June 30th of 2021. Well, on June 11th, 2021, there was another 1-year extension given until June 30th, 2022. So this deadline resets the 3-year cycle that we have. So our next triennial assessment is due by June 30th of 2025. The triennial assessment will be placed on the website, and it's been completed by all our schools. The triennial assessment looks at public involvement, notification and assessment, nutrition education, nutrition promotion, physical activity, physical education, and school-based wellness activities. There's a rating scale from 0 to 3. For most of our activities, we are in the 2 to 3 range on our activities, with 3 being the highest. There are some things that our team, our committee looked at and how we were going to improve them, and we set them as part of our goals, which will be coming up. So since 2019, 2020, and through the rest of this year, our Student Wellness Committee members consisted of this pretty big group of people. This year, though, we've only met once, and a lot of it has to deal with COVID. Previously, our year before that, we met 4 times a year. However, we do have some things in place coming up for this year, which I'm going to share with you, and also some exciting news too. So you can see right now in 2020, 21, 22, we have some new members. This is one of the first years I really had a nice response from students that they wanted to be on the committee. So there are 4 new student members to this committee. 2 are from the middle school, 2 are from the high school. We also have a new community member, which is Scott Gordon. And we will be looking for a new board member because Dr. Huff is going to take a break. She told me until she's leaving. So if you're interested in one of the board members, please feel free to reach out to me. Jen Lentz is on the committee with us. So we have representation from every single building, either through the nurses or through PE. So like I said, we had one meeting. We had a meeting on June 9th of this year. And we discussed about changing the name to the Wellness and Nutrition Committee. And what we did is we reviewed our student wellness goals. We discussed our district goals for 21, 22. And we just decided that we were going to keep our goals because they were still viable, the ones that we had planned from last year. We did not hit our goals this year, and so we are going to just keep those goals and keep moving forward with what we're doing. One of the things coming up too with these district wellness and nutrition goals is that we're looking at nutrition education, nutrition promotion, physical activity, and public involvement. So when we did the triennial assessment, these were the areas that we felt that we needed as a district, we had to work on. So in nutrition education, we're going to work with food services to improve nutritional information into subject areas. And part of that also is they're going to support a district-wide nutritional promotion. So it's not going to be just by a building, it's going to be district-wide. We're going to continue to build and foster partnerships with the community for physical activities, looking at local fitness centers, sports camps, anything that offers programs to students to support physical activity. And then as part of our public involvement, we'd like to improve communication to stakeholders regarding the student wellness plan through our district promotion of activities on the website. And we do have some goals that we're going to look at regarding public involvement. So our next steps for the Wellness Committee, which was one of the really, I want to say what the committee was very excited about is we've decided to do this new initiative, which is going to be part of our website. We can send it out to each of the buildings for the principals if they would like to send it out in e-blast, but we are looking at doing monthly podcasts on the district website to address certain things like screen time, vaping, anything to do with food rewards, nutrition, wellness issues, and preferably too, if there needs to be issues that each building may have, we would do a separate podcast for that. We're going to do the planning in August on this. I have the nurses, PE teachers, and a lot of the other committee members who are coming in. We're going to work on the podcast. They're going to start in September. Again, working on our community outreach. What we're looking at, right now, our committee is a district committee. What we really would like to do is refocus and work with the new school, have new school wellness committees so that there's a school wellness committee in each building. Right now, we're lacking in that, and that's something that I really feel as someone who's leading this, that's something that we need just so that staff and students understand the policies and come to us with their concerns for wellness and nutrition. Again, working with the food service provider, and we're looking on doing that for meetings and events instead of just having people bring in things. We're kind of looking at more food items that are compliant with what our policy is. And then the triennial assessments will be posted on the district website. So they aren't there right now, but that's one of the things that as part of our policy, they need to be.
All right, thank you. Do we have questions from board members? Kelly?
Mary, thank you so much. I wondered about the audience for the podcast. Are they tailored more to parents and guardians? Are they tailored to students?
We are talking in August. I think we're planning on doing a little bit of both.
Okay.
What we did in our previous meetings in 19 and 20, we wanted to have like presentations for parents, and with COVID, we decided this is a great opportunity to kind of move forward and do this. We could use the Screencastify. And so, yes, if there's concerns, and that's kind of why we're looking at those building committees, if there's a concern from the building and they need something for students, we could do a podcast for that. If there's something like we talked about mental health issues as part of our committee meetings again in 1920. And that didn't come to fruition either, how we wanted to do that. And so just having some of those things for parents to kind of, instead of having come to our presentation at 6 o'clock on Monday night, it's just an opportunity for parents to access it anytime they want.
That's great. One thing I would encourage with the focus on nutrition is also to think about for a parent guardian audience in particular, but also perhaps for students, is education around anorexia, bulimia, particularly starting at the middle school level. And I'm sure you or Megan might tell me you actually need to start earlier these days, perhaps about that.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that concern around anorexia and bulimia from a number of folks in the community. And I think our parents would appreciate some more education about it.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
I'll definitely consider that and keep it with what we're doing.
Any other questions or comments? Jen?
Thank you. Ms. Figueroa, I just had a quick question. I don't know if you know this yet because it seems like it's still evolving, but do you know what the platform, I'm assuming the podcast is an audio presentation, most are, but would this also be audio versus a video?
Again, the team was going to get together and
Okay.
discuss how do they want this to look. And this
Okay.
came from our meeting on the 9th, where it was we had a pretty good attendance, but it wasn't that diverse group of stakeholders. So we were hoping to have more a diverse group between students and just kind of putting it out there. So I think we're just kind of laying the groundwork in August, hoping like we come up with these ideas on how this is going to look, and then
Right.
letting everybody know.
Okay. I always find it the irony with the screen time presentation that it needs to come through some sort of screen device, but it is good information and it's good information to disseminate. And for what it's worth, I think also it would be wonderful to maybe, and I'll likely be at these meetings, but to hear a podcast for adults presented by children, because, what would you want your adult to know? Because, we can learn so much from their perspective on all of the topics that you just put up there
Mhm.
if we listen to them. So,
And one of the other conversations I had with Dr. McCullough, we kind of overlap a lot with student services, this student wellness and nutrition, as well as her student wellness committees. And what we're trying to do is kind of have her come to this, our committee, and give an update of what they're working on, so that we're not, putting spending too much time on something that she's already done or she's been working on, so that we're kind of like on the same page on where everybody's going.
Okay, thank you.
Kelly?
I just thought of one other thing, and it comes from experience through work. When we think about if we're ever moving in a direction of trying to provide nutrition education or even like healthy cooking ideas, I know from presentations the nutrition group has done before that they have they build into their repertoire and their offerings things that are foods that are common for different populations and
Mhm.
different ethnicities and so forth. And I think that would be a terrific thing to build into it. You know, how do you make recipes more heart healthy, but take from food that is commonly served in the homes of different, you know, populations within the district. So just another consideration.
Any other questions? I'll just put my 2 cents in to add to Jen's comment about, I think a lot of these health and nutrition topics are really great to really engage the students as you know, to generate ideas about how to influence their peers as messengers. And so, you know, I think as you think about the podcast series, as you think about other initiatives around vaping and other things, that having students very actively engaged in that, I think can be just a win-win all around.
Agreed. And I think having really 4 students who are very interested and want to be active in this is another plus, because we really haven't had strong student participation before. So I think I'm excited about it. So,
Great, thank you.
all right. Thank you.
All right, so that takes us to time for audience recognition for response to items for action on the agenda this evening. And as a reminder, public comment is a time for district residents and taxpayers to speak to the board about an issue that is before the board or may come before the board. It is a time for us to listen and hear perspectives and experiences from our community. And while we can't answer questions at the meeting, there's always an opportunity to follow up after meetings if there is a specific question for the district. For now, we do have 2 methods to comment: in person and by phone. And I do want to mention that one of the things I'm excited about this evening is at the July meeting, we're going to finally put this room back to the way it was before COVID and allow ourselves to be organized in a way that makes it easier for in-person public comment to happen. And so future public comment going forward in July will be in person. So something I'm eager to move back to our more traditional forms of engagement. But for now, for phone messages, members of the public wishing to address the board for this evening can call 610-892-3470 extension 1102 to leave recorded comments subject to a 3-minute time limit. Any comments left prior to 5 o'clock today are transcribed and made available to the board. Any comments left after 5 o'clock but prior to the end of the meeting will still be transcribed, distributed to the board, and made a part of the record, but will not be acknowledged during the meeting. Is there anyone here in the audience tonight who would like to speak about a topic on the agenda this evening? Do you see anybody? No. Okay. And I don't believe we have any called-in comments for anything on the agenda this evening. Is that correct? Okay. Okay. So that takes us to our first item for action, which is approval of the June 14th regular business meeting minutes, and I so move. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Matt. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Figueroa, can you please take a roll call vote?
Mr. Ballas,
Aye.
Ms. Semino,
Abstain because I wasn't here.
Dr. Huff,
Aye.
Mr. Cutis,
Aye.
Mrs. Lentz,
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan,
Aye.
Mrs. Walkman,
Aye.
Ms. Wachowski Smith,
Aye.
Dr. Grandy.
Aye.
Dr. Grandy, the motion passes 8-0 with 1 abstention.
All right, thank you, Ms. Figueroa. So that takes us to personnel. We have 19 items for action in personnel this evening. Are there any on the list anyone would like to separate from the rest? Okay. So first we have approval of 5 resignations and retirements, all listed in the agenda. And we have approval of 2 appointments. Kathleen Wirt, long-term substitute special education teacher at Wes, and Shanae Young, home and school visitor. We have the approval of 3 leaves of absence as listed in the agenda. We have approval of staff to work on the digital literacy curriculum at a rate of $37 per hour, not to exceed 40 hours as listed in the agenda. We have approval of additions to the summer school program as listed in the agenda. We have approval of a change in salary status for Catherine Poulos and Kenneth Huffnall as listed in the agenda. We have approval of 6 instructional technology liaisons as listed in the agenda. We have approval of a change of resignation date for Martha Q from July 8th to July 9th, 2021. We have approval of a change of resignation date for George King from September 17th to August 20th, 2021. We have the approval of changes of assignment for Chris Matsenka to middle school principal, Tori Montello to substitute bus driver, and Kate Evans to a ELA temporary professional employee teacher at the high school. We have approval of additions to the postseason pay as listed in the agenda. We have the approval of staff to work on the 3rd grade scope and sequence math and focus curriculum review at a rate of $37 per hour, not to exceed 30 hours. We have approval of staff to work on the high school math gap recovery curriculum at the rate of $37 per hour, not to exceed 60 hours. We have approval of staff to work on the RTII at the rate of $37 per hour, not to exceed 10 hours. We have approval of staff to work on the gifted program revision of matrix and processes at the rate of $37 per hour, not to exceed 40 hours. We have approval of staff to work on the social studies K through 5 curriculum at the rate of $37 per hour, not to exceed 75 hours. And we have approval of staff to work on the ELA K-2 literacy curriculum at the rate of $37 per hour, not to exceed 100 hours. And then we have approval of staff to work on social emotional learning and trauma training curriculum at the rate of $37 per hour, not to exceed 7 hours total. And lastly, approval of compensation for the 2021-2022 Wellness Committee nurses and teachers at the rate of $37 per hour, not to exceed 50 hours. So all items in the section are as attached or described in the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Jerry. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll go with Mary Jo. Was it Mary Jo? That wasn't you.
It was
Marilyn. Okay, I have my head down. Okay. Thank you, Marilyn. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Fagora, can you please take a roll call vote?
Ms. Semino,
Aye.
Dr. Huff,
Aye.
Mr. Cutis, Mr. Cutis,
Aye.
Mrs. Lentz,
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan,
Aye.
Mrs. Walkman,
Aye.
Ms. Wachowski Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Ballas,
Aye.
Dr. Grandy.
Aye.
Dr. Grandy, the personnel items pass 9-0.
All right, thank you, Ms. Fagora. So that takes us to policy. We just have one item for action in policy, which is approval of the adoptions of the DCIU policies and procedures under the federal requirements of 34 CFR 300.151 through 300.608 for the 2021-2022 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Kelly. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Mary Jo. Any discussion? All right, Ms. Fagora, can you please take a roll call vote?
Dr. Huff,
Aye.
Mr. Cutis,
Aye.
Mrs. Lentz,
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan,
Aye.
Mrs. Walkman,
Aye.
Ms. Wachowski Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Ballas,
Aye.
Ms. Semino,
Aye.
Dr. Grandy.
Aye.
The motion passes 9-0.
All right, thank you, Ms. Fagora. So that takes us to curriculum. We have 6 items for action. Are there any on the list anyone would like to separate from the rest? Okay. First, we have approval of a 2020-2021 related services provider contract as stipulated. We have approval of a 2021-2022 related services provider contracts as stipulated. We have approval of a 2021 ESY tuition contract as listed in the agenda. We have approval of an educational services agreement as listed in the agenda. We have approval of 2021-2022 Category 1 overnight field trips as stipulated. We have approval of 2021-2022 Category 2 foreign exchange field trips as stipulated. These items are as attached or described in the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Matt. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jerry. Any discussion? Okay. I'll just make a quick point on, I know field trips were a hot topic a year ago for sure. And so, I think we're all very optimistic that all of these field trips can go forward, that we're approving tonight. But I would just encourage parents when making decisions about these trips to review all the cancellation policies in detail, because there are some financial commitments that are involved, some of which funds are recoverable if something does come up, particularly related to the COVID pandemic. But just encourage everyone to take a close look at those details well in advance. Any other comments before we take a roll call vote? Okay, Ms. Fagora?
Mr. Cutis,
Aye.
Mrs. Lentz,
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan,
Aye.
Mrs. Walkman.
Aye.
Ms. Wachowski Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Ballas,
Aye.
Ms. Semino,
Aye.
Dr. Huff,
Aye.
Dr. Grandy.
Aye.
Dr. Grandy, the curriculum items pass 9-0.
All right, thank you, Ms. Fagora. So that takes us to finance. We have 11 items. Are there any on the list anyone would like to separate from the rest? Okay. So we have approval of payment of invoices to vendors dated May 19th, June 22nd, 2021. We have approval of the treasurer's report for May 2021. We have acknowledgement of receipt of the financial statements for May 2021 as stipulated. We have approval of 2020-2021 budget transfers as stipulated. We have acknowledgement of receipt of a donation from Mary and Tom Renke of $1,000. We have approval of the quoted insurance proposals from Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services for the 2021-2022 school year as listed in the agenda. We have authorization to enter into an agreement for the property at 152 Park Avenue in Swarthmore, setting the assessment at $480,000 for tax year 2021. We have approval of the renewal contract with Power School for its e-finance software and related items for the 2021-2022 school year, not to exceed $59,000 as stipulated. We have approval of the annual software access agreement with Raptor Technologies for the 2021-2022 school year, not to exceed $3,000 as stipulated. We have adoption of the 2021-2022 final general fund operating budget funded by the tax rates as listed in the agenda and the amount listed in the agenda. We have approval of the 2021-2022 Homestead Farmstead Exclusion Resolution as authorized under provision of the Homestead Property Exclusion Program Act and the Taxpayer Relief Act. All items in this section are as attached or described in the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Kelly. Do we have a second?
Second.
That was you, Marilyn. Thank you, Marilyn. Any discussion?
So
Go ahead.
I have a comment on the budget item on J. And just some background before I make my comment, which is, despite taking the exceptions for special ed here and getting us to a 4.2% increase in our budget, we're still projecting a dip of 900,000 into our fund balance. And that's going to take our fund balance from 6.3 million down to 5.4 million. And we're not going to be able to do that many more times. So we need to find a way to balance this budget as soon as possible. I'm disappointed that we did not get a chance to review this budget in detail in a finance committee meeting. Given the projected dip into the fund balance, I don't think we can avoid the 4.27% increase. And we're also up against the legal deadline to adopt the budget. So I'm feeling stuck, but at the same time, I'm feeling comfortable voting to adopt this budget because of those couple of factors. Namely that I don't think that we could avoid the 4.27% increase. That said, I'm expecting that we're going to take a hard look at these line items with the next superintendent and business manager as we go through the year to make sure that we're spending our funds in alignment with both our priorities and our needs as a district. And I want to do that also to try and minimize that dip into the fund balance. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Kelly?
I'd also like to offer some comments in addition to what Matt shared. As Matt said, we did not have as much time to review the detailed line item budget this year for a number of reasons. I do want to say, though, that I know Matt and I both sent a lot of questions upon receiving it, and I want to thank Ms. Q at the same time for providing very quick and detailed responses to those questions. To Matt's point, I agree. I don't think that there is a path that doesn't require us to increase the tax at the rate that we are proposing. And I want to share a few comments, and this may take a little bit, so I apologize, but why and how I got comfortable with making the decision to vote yes on the budget. Ms. Q shared in many meetings this year and in prior years that salary and benefits makes up the majority of our school district's expenditure, similar to all school districts. That's roughly 70% of the entire budget for WSSD. I would remind everyone that pension contributions are mandated by the state. The district does not have any authority over the pension contributions. I have a high degree of confidence that WSSD is offering an appropriately competitive salary and benefit package that makes up that 70% of our budget so that we can attract and retain highly qualified teachers, staff, and administrators. During the 2020-21 school year, the district negotiated and board approved 3 collective bargaining agreements and 5 compensation plans, which represent nearly 100% of our district employees. That process included benchmarking salary and benefits through comparisons to peer districts in Delaware County and the region. The benchmarking was done by district administrators and through consultation with the Pennsylvania School Board Association. The results of those analyses were shared with the board and discussed in several executive sessions throughout the course of the year prior to board approval of those agreements. Some of us also did our own research, particularly looking at the Administrator Act 93 agreements for districts in the area. In addition, so I can say that what we are offering is competitive and it's appropriate based on what we see with peer districts in the region and in the county. Also, the district's part of a consortium, and I might not be using exactly the right terms here, but it's essentially a purchasing consortium run through the DCIU that negotiates healthcare benefits on behalf of many schools and other public employees, which has enabled our district to obtain very competitive rates for the healthcare benefits that we offer. As a reminder, another 10% of our budgets, now we're up to 80% of our budget, that 10% goes to the debt service. So that remaining 20% is covering a vast array of necessary spending on things like books, supplies, curriculum, technology, utilities, insurance, equipment, maintenance, repair. I asked questions specifically on a couple of these topics. I asked questions about supplies. The spending on supplies was largely the same as our 2021 budget levels. I had expected to see a decrease there after getting feedback from Ms. Q around that. I understand that we have left 100,000 in the budget for COVID because we don't know what to anticipate in this coming year in terms of measures that we would need to take that require us to purchase supplies. And overall, the 2021-22 budget is $3 million, which is $500,000 less than what we actually project to spend for 2020-2021. So there is actually a decrease in supplies. Where we do see areas of increase, it is supporting our English language learners program, which we're bringing back from the IU. The IU program has become unsustainable from a financial perspective, and it's not being supported in the same way that it had been in the past. It's also being used for their K-12 literacy program, our AP STAT program, differentiated math and reading support, and things of that nature. So it's going directly to educating our students. I asked specifically about operations and some areas of increase that we saw there. Those are primarily for repair and maintenance of our buildings and our equipment, inclusive of things like our HVAC system, fire alarms, sprinklers, fire extinguishers, painting, our SRS Tech Lab renovation, the middle school retaining wall, elevators, it goes on, the pedestrian bridge repairs that need to be done. So those are all things that the board has looked at in the past. It's part of our operations plan. We've talked about them and it's supported through the evidence that the district has provided to the board in the past. The curriculum increases again support the ELL program, the K-2 literacy. We do see some significant increases in areas of need, particularly speech and language support. We have needed to add time for purchase services in those areas due to student need. The same is true for professional education to support emotional support. Again, we have an increased need, student need. Learning support, we've invested in some technology that helps us educate our students in our learning support programs as well. And finally, I think that based on what we just looked at in terms of all of the work that teachers and staff are doing over the summer, I think that we can fairly easily dissolute anybody of the idea that our teachers and staff do not work over the summer. We just went through a tremendous amount of work that they're doing over the summer. And so some of our increases are actually supporting this incredibly important work related to a number of different things, supporting mental health, social emotional learning, trauma invested practices, our multi-tiered systems and supports, our wellness committee work, our summer curriculum. I could go on and on. Suicide prevention, a lot of work in our mental health support. So those were some of the areas that I dug into personally where we saw some increases. I wanted to share that because I know that the burden that we're putting on families in the district is not insignificant. It's quite significant for the same reasons that Matt has articulated and for the reasons that I've just walked through. I will vote tonight in support of our budget.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Any other comments? Okay. Just want to thank the members of our finance committee for all the work you've been doing and agree with Matt that we have to find a way to get to structural balance. You know, it's been obviously a tumultuous last couple of years from not just a pandemic perspective, but from a budgetary perspective as well. And obviously the two are very closely related to one another. So I think it's a very high priority for the district to find a path forward to structural balance so that we don't continue to erode at our fund balance. If there's no other comments, I'll ask Ms. Fagora to take a roll call vote.
Mrs. Lentz,
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan.
Aye.
Mrs. Walkman,
Aye.
Ms. Wachowski Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Ballas,
Aye.
Ms. Semino,
Aye.
Dr. Huff,
Aye.
Mr. Cutis,
Aye.
Dr. Grandy.
Aye.
Finance items pass with a vote of 9-0.
All right, thank you, Ms. Fagora. Okay, so that takes us to audience recognition for response to topics not on the agenda this evening. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment? Yep. Hi, if you could just share your name, your street, and then your comments.
Hello, my name is Paul Jacobs, Rhino Road, Nether Province. And I didn't want to let it go unremarked that July 1st will be the 50th birthday for the Wallingford-Swarthmore School District. It was not loved at the beginning. The lawsuits continued into its first year. It was being fought in Harrisburg through its first year. The Swarthmore seemed exceptionally to not like it. The Swarthmore School Board actually passed a budget anyway. The interim committee that was supposed to become the school board disbanded itself rather than serve as the new school board. You guys might have felt that way sometimes this year. But in August, there was a picture in the paper of a Wallingford-Swarthmore School District bus there with the new lettering. And at least in Nether Providence, it seems to have been pretty popular. So I did want to remark on that. It's made it 50 years. That's pretty great. Maybe another 50. The other thing I wanted to remark on, this week, the township, the Nether Providence Township Board of Commissioners discussed changing the zoning rules to make it easier to establish charter and private schools in Nether Providence. And I think the school board and school community should be aware of these changes. And if you are a big fan of our public schools, then you should let your commissioners know that maybe making it easier for charter schools to come into our township may not be in the best interest. That's what I had. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I think we have one called in comment. I'll let Kelly read that, and then if there's anyone else who would like to comment, you can make your way to the podium.
This comment is from Robertcristaldi of Putnam Boulevard in Wallingford. I have a comment that is not on the agenda tonight. I'm concerned that the district and some of the latest policies about requiring students and staff to refer to transgender students by their preferred pronouns. The district's Diversity and Inclusion Committee has stated that they are inclusive to all people, including transgender people, but also people of religions. I'm concerned that the district is forgetting that some people have religions, such as me, that do not allow for people to transition and change genders. While I understand that the district must protect students, I think it's very important that we don't forget about people like me and people who have religion. I hope the district will keep this in mind going forward, especially in the curriculum. It's a shame that part of the phys ed curriculum in 10th grade has to do with handing out of packets that require to say things like you need to call people by their preferred pronouns, and saying things like don't decide someone's identity for them, even if you don't agree or understand. If you don't agree or understand, that should be a person's decision whether to call someone else by their preferred gender. I hope the district will consider this moving forward, and this will not be the last time to hear from me on this subject. Thank you and good night.
Do we have any other comments? Okay, I don't think we have any others. That takes us to school board reports. Does anyone have a report from a district subcommittee or out of district role? Kelly.
I'll just, the finance committee did meet Monday night a week ago. And at that time, we actually reviewed the renewal of the insurance. Is that the right word? The coverage levels, right? That was in the finance committee for approval tonight. So the entire set of coverage packages that we reviewed and approved earlier was the topic of that meeting.
Thank you. Any other reports? Okay. All right. Do we have any old business this evening?
I don't think it's technically old business, but I did want to take a moment to thank Mary and Tom Ranke for their donation. It's in the, obviously it's in our agenda tonight, but to especially thank them on behalf of this board for their very generous donation. Thank you.
Yeah, I would echo that. And thank you for mentioning that. Any others? Okay. Do we have any new business?
Yes.
Go ahead, Chair.
It's with a bit of a regret that I have to announce my resignation from the school board effective July 11th. As a result of changes to our family situation, we have chosen to move out of the district and will no longer reside in the district as of that date. As such, I am required to resign from the board, and doing so effective on July 11th. I would like to express my appreciation to members of the board. It's been an extraordinary 18 months, and I appreciated the willingness of all of us to listen to varying perspectives and look for common ground, and generally reach consensus on what is the right thing to do for the school district and for our students. And I appreciate that. It's been a very rewarding 18 months. I also want to express my appreciation to the administration, to the teachers, and to the parents of the school district. Without their hard work and dedication and commitment over the past, especially 12 to 15 months, we would not have come out of this year or this school year in as positive a way as we have. And in a way, I'm kind of sad leaving because I'm excited about the upcoming year. Out of the pandemic with new leadership. I agree that our financial challenges are difficult, but I think our future is very positive, and I'm looking forward to kind of look over your shoulder and see how things develop in a very positive way. Again, thank you very much. Sorry to leave.
Well, Jerry, I want to just really thank you for all of your contributions to the board. You've been an incredible voice throughout all the decisions we've had to make, and it's been extraordinary having you on the board. And I particularly want to thank you for the incredible commitment that you had to standing up a lot of our work focused on DEI. That committee on the board has really been a working committee unlike any other in terms of really doing a lot of heavy lifting to try to move things forward around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so, again, I just really want to thank you. You've been, again, an incredible contributor to a very collaborative process over our time working together. So appreciate it. Okay, any other new business? So I guess I should mention, similar to past vacancies, we'll post details on the school board website, on the district website about filling Jerry's seat, but we will miss you. All right, if we don't have anything else, I did just recall as Jen was remembering things that we did approve tonight. I did want to congratulate our new middle school principal, Chris Madsanka. I don't know if Chris is still in the room. I can't see around the corner. But again, we're very excited to have you taking on this leadership role at the middle school. It's very exciting. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.